Okay, let's talk about something you use every single day, probably without a second thought, the battery. It seems so simple, right? But as we're going to see, based on Nicholas Niarchos's book, The Elements of Power, the story behind it is actually this huge global battle that is already changing our world.
I mean, really think about it for a second. What's powering the phone that might be in your hand right now? Your laptop? What about that electric car you just saw drive by? The answer feels obvious, but the story we're about to get into is so much deeper and way more complex than you can probably imagine.
You know, for the whole 20th century, oil was king. It literally drew the maps of global power and, yeah, conflict. But that era, it's changing. There's a new source of power on the block, and it's become just as critical, just as political, and the competition for it is absolutely fierce.
So at the very heart of this huge shift are just a handful of materials, things like lithium and cobalt. They're called critical for a reason. I mean, they're the essential building blocks for basically everything from our phones to our most advanced weapons. The catch is, their supply chains are incredibly fragile, and that vulnerability has turned them into the prize in a new global power struggle.
And that brings us to our first major point, this intense geopolitical competition to control these minerals. And let's be clear, this isn't just about business. No, this is about national security and who's going to have strategic dominance for the next 100 years.
Okay, so this lays out the strategic chessboard just perfectly. On one side, you've got China. They played the long game, spending decades building a near monopoly by investing in places like Africa while, frankly, others just weren't paying attention. They've even used that control as leverage in trade disputes. Then on the other side, you have the US, which is now scrambling to catch up. They're creating this massive $12 billion strategic stockpile called Project Vault and launching programs like Pax Silica just to build new, reliable supply chains for critical tech like AI. It's a classic power dynamic, right? The established leader versus the scrambling challenger?
So what's driving all this intense competition? Well, it all comes down to one revolutionary piece of technology, the lithium-ion battery. You could say that in the 21st century, the battery has become the new oil barrel.
And this just nails the core issue. Nicholas Niarchos, the author, puts it perfectly. The ability to create and control energy storage is now a direct measure of a nation's strategic influence. You can measure it in dollars, in volts, and in pure geopolitical clout. And these batteries are, well, they're everywhere. They've become the foot soldiers of the digital revolution. They power the phone in your pocket, the electric car on the street, and even the most advanced drones and jet engines. Let's face it, modern life as we know it just wouldn't run without them. And the demand is only getting bigger.
This timeline really shows you just how effectively China played the long game. Back in the early 2010s, while the US and Europe were looking elsewhere, China was pouring massive investments into Africa. And wow, did that strategy pay off? Fast forward a decade, and by 2023, a Chinese company was the world's top battery producer. By 2024, they were making 1 million EVs in a single month. That's just a stunning story of strategic foresight.
But, and this is a huge but, there's another side to this story. A much, much darker side. This technological revolution, this so-called green transition, is coming at a tremendous human and environmental cost.
Just let this number sink in for a second. Somewhere between 70 and 90% of all lithium-ion batteries are made in China. That's an incredible concentration of production power. But the story doesn't start in the factory, it starts in the ground. And a lot of the time, that ground is on the other side of the world. And this is the gut punch. This is the reality at the very bottom of the supply chain as Niarchos describes it. The clean, sleek technology that's in our hands is directly connected to human suffering in places many of us will never see.
And that brings us to the Democratic Republic of Congo. This one nation is sitting on roughly half of the world's entire supply of these critical minerals. It should be an immense blessing, right? But instead, it's a terrible paradox. Its people remain trapped in this brutal cycle of exploitation and poverty, while outside powers get rich from their land.
So this is the profound dilemma at the heart of the Green Revolution. Our push for clean energy to fight climate change is directly fueling environmental devastation at the source. It's a transition that, right now, relies on the exploitation of the world's most vulnerable people, including kids, and it drives conflict and corruption in the process. It's a tough pill to swallow. So, where does all this leave us? Well, honestly, it leaves us in a very difficult and uncertain position. We're facing a future where our solutions to one crisis seem to be creating a whole other one.
And this is the central question the book really leaves us with. Is it even possible to chase our climate goals without sacrificing human rights and environmental justice along the way? Right now, the answer to that is anything but clear.
And this is who pays the price. In this cutthroat competition for resources, in the complex, high-stakes games played by superpowers, it's the people on the ground, the miners and their families, who are just erased from the equation.
So, while we may not have easy answers, the one thing we know for sure, the one thing the review makes crystal clear, is that this is just the beginning. The global battle for the elements of power isn't slowing down. In fact, it's about to get even more intense. And now, at least you know what's at stake.